The rich people want to kill the poor people. The poor people definitely want to murder all of the rich people. But somehow the rich are still complaining about their life. The poor are complaining about their lifestyle, and nobody is happy. So let's find out why the hell poor people want to get rich and rich people aren't happy or satisfied with all of the money that they've got. Go on then, Richie Rich. What's so bad about being able to afford what you want in life? And why are the rich never satisfied? Why do they always want more? And enough is never enough these days.
Well, for me, the problem was, I started off with my Lilo, and then I got enough money for that, and then I kind of went to speedboat, and then my yacht, and it's never enough, and I always just want that yacht that's that bit bigger. So, it's a difficult life. I mean, what about you?
I just think everybody's in levels of satisfaction now with comparing against you. It's like keeping up with the Joneses, isn't it? You're on Instagram and you've got a boat, and I've just come back from Ibiza and I'm out there, I'm happy on a little jet ski, and then McGregor pulls up in his Lambo yacht, and then Bill Gates is next to him on his 200-foot mega yacht, and then Bezos has got his 300-foot mega yacht, and it's just like a dick measuring contest who's got the biggest boat. And it is this crazy thing now. Like there's always more. There's always more to be had, and it is a real. It's a real mess with the head on the mental health side, because you do end up with this constant cycle of enough is never enough, and then there's this huge downfall that people end up going through, and there's that sort of expression of like walking in somebody else's shoes, and I wish that Jim Carrey said something like, I wish that everybody could fulfill their dreams and their wildest imaginations, and that it all came true, so they could see how irrelevant it all is and how that is not the route to true happiness. And I think he's so right when he says that the reality is that everyone's got these dreams and ambitions, and it's always that saying of, if only I had this, if only I had that. And wherever you're at in life, and obviously we're making a bit of a joke of it all, but wherever you're at in life, whether you're struggling to make ends meet paycheck to paycheck, or whether you're worried about how much fuel you need to put in your 200-foot mega yacht, like, people are still finding the issues. There's always issues, and fulfillment doesn't come from that tangible thing. Because the people, and saying as it is, the people at the bottom are always going, well, if I had an opportunity, or if I had this money, or if I had that, I only need this, then I'll be happy. And the reality is, that's not the case. You find the fulfillment from the journey that you go on and the relationships that you find along the way, and nothing to do with the actual tangible thing itself. Having a boat is great, but being on a boat on your own is shit. You want to be on a boat with the people that you care about. And me and my mates, we'd be happy on a little 4-person pedalo. And it's about the people that are on the boat with you. And it's not about the size of the boat itself. Because if you're on a big boat with a bunch of nobodies that have zero relation to you, and you don't care about them, and they don't care about you, then the boat in itself, bit of a metaphor really, it's quite a nice metaphor. Whereas, I'd much rather have a dinghy with people I care about than being a yacht with a bunch of dickheads.
Well, this is it. And when you were talking about that, it made me think. Do you remember that program on TV? It was quite big at one point, where there was like the house swap between like the benefit house and like the rich man house. And it was like the rich family they got the budget of like, the poor people. And the poor people got the budget of the rich people. And they literally did a house swap. And they go around, they're like, fucking hell, Julie, look at this house. And they're like finding it mental. And then obviously the posh people are like, Jesus Christ, Mary, what the bloody hell are we doing it? And they've got like £20 a week that they can spend on shopping. And they're like, how the hell are we going to get through the day? And then the other family's like, ordering takeaway every night and thinking, geez, they're living the life of luxury.
God.
And it's
what are they ordering from the takeaway? Going in your accent.
Nearly everything. I think they're ordering like Chinese.
No, you got to do in the accent. Get on the phone, ring. What are you having? Order it. Go. What's your order?
Can I have a meat feast pizza, please, mate? Curry sauce, fish and chips, all the standard stuff. But anything that was very working class. But it is a hilarious program. But you just do see the complete divide, and you can see that really, because they tend to do it with families, that because they're still together. I mean, I suppose the family that's not got much money going in a massive house, they're not really going to find too much of an issue. But the family that's got a lot of money, when they're going into the other person's house, they're happy because they've still got a nice family unit together, and it doesn't matter where they are. And I think that's where you got to derive your happiness from. But it's a very funny program.
Of course it is, and and I can't remember. Is it Rich House versus Rich House Poor House or something like that? Name, it's worth a watch. But you see that, and again, the sentiment still is the same. And people think that there's always, because that working class mindset is always, well, if only I had this, I'd be happy. And the one thing that I said, we were talking about this earlier, didn't we? And it was one of those situations where I genuinely find that the friends that I've got who came from a, let's say, more lower to working class background in a less privileged area. We were lucky. We grew up in a very privileged area. It was a nice part of the country. At one point, it was one of the most affluent areas in the entire country. And
gone to shit now.
Yeah, it's gone to absolute tatters now. It's it's not great. But even then, like, we can't even say that. Yeah. How privileged is it to say that when? Well, yeah. And again, I don't want to go off on this bloody tangent, but there's literally children in Gaza who have got nothing, and we're going on about like the litter that's not being collected, and it's all. It's
not too far off though.
Oh my God, you're going to get done for that.
I'm joking.
I'm sure you're not. He's not. Everyone is not. But to be honest, I think again, it is still, you get used to a certain lifestyle and then it gets taken away from you, and it does come as a bit of a shock. But the reality is, the friends that I've got that are from, let's say, a poorer area, simple as that, I find that their relationships that they have with their friends are far stronger than the ones that I have with mine. And I don't say that to sort of downplay the love that I've got with my mates, because
even less now.
We're all really close. Yeah, we're all really close, but we've now got to 29, 30 years of age and settling down and families and kids and etc. and all of that. And there's less time and effort put into actually going and seeing your pals and speaking to your mates, because I suppose it's become lower down on your priority list. That's the only way to sort of say it. Whereas when you haven't got as much, you take a lot more pride into the things that you can have, which are less tangible, i.e. it's not about shoes and cars and coats and jackets and bullshit. It's about your relationships. It's about the people that you can actually form real connections with in person, because you can't go and buy a coat or find fulfillment in an intangible object like a new jacket. Like a lot of these people nowadays, it's like they're miserable unless they've got a delivery coming every 5 minutes to the house, because they've got no fulfillment anywhere else. And look, I'm even going to bait out sort of something close to home, and sorry to say it, but our mom, like, it's one of those things that she's now got, and I'm real for saying this, like, she's obviously got everything that any woman would ever want: wardrobes full of clothes, shoes, bags, jewelry, coats, and she's blessed and fortunate to have it, and she's grateful for it, so I'm not taking anything away from that. But then it's like her friend doesn't get to see her friends as much and takes less sort of time into that, because the fulfillment really is taken from, oh, well, I'll get another bag, or I'll look forward to getting another pair of shoes. But if you can't afford to buy new shoes, you can't afford to buy another jacket, then you go and see your mates and you get fulfillment from relationships and people, and that sticks in you and you remember it. And so you spend more time with your friends. And I think, again, like I said before, you can be as rich as you want in the world, but if nobody likes you, what's the point? What's the point in having all that money in the world if you're going to end up like Ebenezer Scrooge? Because in the end, you're going to end up getting visited by 3 ghosts at Christmas, and it's going to be a bad day at the office, and You don't want to be that person where everybody just knows you as this stingy, rich arsehole. You want to be, still have the...
You have a bit of money.
You do
have
want
enough.
You want a bit of
money.
money.
You don't want to be poor.
Caveat that, we're not saying let's all be poor.
You want an even balance.
But we want to say that people that haven't got everything that they want in life that is intangible, take a bigger look at what you have got that is very tangible, your relationships and your friends and your family, and be grateful for that, because that makes you far richer than anyone that hasn't got those things, even though they might be on a yacht. And I remember watching, there's a really good video. We might be able to cue it actually in the background. I don't know whether there's any copyright behind it. Bertie, sort us out if you can. It's Elon Musk being asked about whether people would want to live in his mind. And he says it's a storm. And he says that a lot of people think they would want to be me, but it's actually a curse living inside my mind. And a lot of the nights he sleeps alone, and he doesn't have to, but he does.
I mean, my mind is a storm, and I don't think most people would want to be me. They may think they would want to be me, but they don't. They don't know. They don't understand.
And he's the richest man in the world, or has been on multiple occasions, and he sleeps on his own. And people lower down in the, let's say, from a financial sense, and not as rich as far as money is concerned, would look at him and say, I'm jealous and I want everything that he's got. But the reality is,
they've got their families and everything.
He's there looking down at them saying, I wish I had somebody to sleep next to at night.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? One of them film again, I'm going to throw it at you. The Grimsby Brothers.
Where are you going with this?
I knew you'd get there. But you see that, the guy's got no money and he's got like about 50 kids. But like he's really happy. He's like, oh, dad. Like, and it's like, again, they're obviously very, they ain't got any money at all, living like in some terrible area in England. And it's like, but he's happy because he's got his family, and he's like, it's all, you're right, we're with family and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, but it's along the lines of what you're saying. Like, again, someone who's, I know it's a film, but it's still depicting something that's pretty true, really.
Now, I don't know whether it's one of Sacha Baron Cohen's masterpieces, but it is good. I get the point. Podcast. I know, I like it. No, I get the point. I think it's one of those things. I think there's always that switch into other people's shoes, is that you always look like intrinsically at what externally at what someone's got, and you end up being jealous. I remember as a kid, you must have had this at school, when you go to your mate's house and you go over to their house and you see that they've got different things to you, and everything's like, oh, this is so much better than my house. My house is shit. And this house has got so much. You've got a table tennis table, and you've got this really cool PC, or you've got this sofa that's really comfortable that reclines. And it's like, oh, I don't have that.
Ty, I don't know about you, but I feel like we're having a great video, but there's some serious ingredient missing.
I've just checked the recipe book code, and I've looked. There's no subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button below, because this video is cooking.
We're waiting. Yeah. Harry and Louie's house with the dad with his computer.
Exactly, yeah.
Rock band and all them games.
But for them, they probably come to other people's houses because that's their norm. And they go to other people's houses and say, this is so much better than what I've got. You're lucky to have this. And I suppose at the heart of it all, it's just about being grateful, isn't it? I think not many people are grateful for what they've got anymore, and they're always thinking, what's next? And I certainly fall into that category. I'm always like, right, well, what's next? And how do I go from here, and how do I push forward?
Well, everyone can compare themselves to more people, whereas, and again, going back to thinking of like smaller cohorts, which is what it used to be, you're comparing yourself against less people, whereas now you're comparing yourself against, like, again, like a whole world. It's like you'll see someone online that's got like the best computer known to man, like a supercomputer, and they're like, 8K graphic computer games and stuff, and it's like, oh, I want that, and I've only got like this little PSP or whatever, and it's, and you kind of think, they're going to want that and strive for that, and it's just, it's not great for mental health.
Well, comparatively, back then, you think about like what you were saying about an 8K TV. I mean, back in the day, the size of our TVs, our first TV was like that thick. Never mind slim TVs and
Yeah, it was as
smart
wide.
TVs. These TVs literally had an aerial sticking out of them, and if it was raining outside, it wouldn't work. And our parents had even worse. Like they had different TVs, but imagine what would have been the millionaire of 20 years ago. My phone does more than everything that they would have had in their household today. So it's like, you know, an iPhone 13 is better than what a millionaire would have had 10 years ago or whatever the sort of extrapolation would have been over. So, but now the iPhone 13 is not the newest thing. So it's like, oh, what's next? People are always pushing for that next thing.
Well, I mean, I watched this economist on YouTube, and he basically poses this question: what would you rather be? Would you rather be like a middle wealth, not even middle wealth, like low wealth type person, but you still get your TV, your healthcare, and all this sort of stuff of today, or be a king like of 2,000 years ago? Now, what would you pick?
I'd be a king all day long.
Yeah, which is, you know, I probably would as well. But like the economist is, because he's thinking of it like an economist, he goes, you'd be mental to choose the king because one, you're going to have a short life. You got no plumbing. You got no heating. You got no phone. You got no
I've got servants.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like you can see how that person would think, and I wonder what people would say. Like, what do people reckon?
No, I can. Put it in the comments. If he goes, would you rather be a king of 2,000 years ago, or would you rather be a modern day middle household,
middle class?
And do you know what? Again, like I do get the sentiment. I get obviously what he's trying to say is that, like I said about having, you know, the technology in this phone is more powerful than the technology they use to take people to the moon. So you can say all of that, but you know, being a king's being a king, innit? Like, I rule a country, and it's like I've got
start wars whenever you want.
Yeah,
just like that Frenchie's pissed me off today. Fuck him.
Yeah, there you go. We'll send the Ibiza final boss in, Battle of Hastings. Go and kill some French people, just like soldiers and that. But again, it's sign of the times, isn't it? You're living up the upper echelon for the time, so you would live in what would be comparatively the absolute finest, of everything in that time. So yeah, I do get it. Obviously, if you were to compare actual lifestyles where one's got a smartphone, a TV, healthcare, modern medicine, and technology, obviously, you know, somebody that's, I mean, to be fair, you see homeless people with a sleeping bag outside with an iPhone, and even they've got more technology than a king of 2,000 years ago. So it is just one of those things that we have just now created this new world. But yeah, being a king would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think talking about, unfortunately, like the homelessness, and that is obviously another big thing that's happening here and there. But I think one of the other benefits to having the challenges is that's that really cool expression that I think a lot of people know now, which is that hard men create easy times create soft men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. And there's loads of different variations of saying it, whether I shouldn't have said men or people, but you know, if you care about that, fuck off. But I am always reminded of reading, and I love Mike Tyson, one of my favourite boxers of all time, and in my opinion, the best heavyweight boxer to ever live in his prime. I think he just runs through everybody. He's an absolute unit. And the reason he can do that, and the reason he was able to do that, was because his childhood was an absolute just horror show. It was terrible. He was doing crack at like 11. He was in a gang at 10. He was robbing people's houses. His bed at the age of 8 years old was an abandoned car park with his mom, who was also a drug addict. And I would love to know what I was doing at 8 years old, but I can imagine it was probably very much along the lines of coming home from school, having a loving meal ready cooked for me, not having to lift a finger, having a nice, soft, comfy bed with no hardship and no suffering and no stress. And compare that to a young Mike Tyson who was sleeping in an abandoned car park on what would probably be a sort of slither of cardboard and a dusty sleeping bag, if that. And having to fight for his life every single day. And I'm where I am doing a podcast. We also have a successful business, but let's just say doing a podcast. He's the heavyweight champion, the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. Because of that shit, because of that resilience, because of the things that he went through to harden him up. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should like immediately go and sell all their stuff and go
Live
and
on the streets.
live in a car park.
Get an iPhone, I suppose.
But I also am saying that. I also do think it's important to go through shit. And I think if you're one of these privileged people that has gone through that type of lifestyle without any hardship, I think you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, slap yourself around the face and go and slum it for a bit and go and do something a bit away from the ordinary, out of your comfort zone. Like for me, that was boxing. So I took up boxing because a friend of mine said it'd be the best thing I ever did. And before that, I'd never even been in a fight. It was a bit of a sort of scared.
Wet lettuce, really.
Yeah, take it. Yeah, a bit of a scared kid. And he said it'd be the best thing you ever do. And for me, starting that was that gateway into seeing what some people were really struggling with. And then you talk about some of these fighters, and Mike Tyson says it even now, because some of his kids said, I want to go into boxing, and he just shook his head and he goes, you ain't going into boxing. And he was like, why, Dad? I think I could be really good. And he was like, because you ain't got the hunger for it, you ain't got the metal. He goes, you don't know the shit that I went through, because one day you're going to come across someone on the other side of that ring who went through what I went through, and they're going to be able to dig deep into that pain, and they will fuck you up. And you're going to be there crying in a corner and hoping for your soft, 200 thread count Egyptian cotton sheets and your silk pillow, and you'll be running back to it.
Oh, that sounds nice. You know what it is, though?
That's reality.
I think I swear it was about 65% of today's billionaires are all self-made. And a lot of them are going to have all gone through that shit. Like, again, with Stephen Bartlett being one that always kind of springs to mind. He had nothing. He was like jumping around cushions, feeling for, in takeaways that had them really shitty leather sofas, you know what I mean? And he's kind of like, inching across trying to find, see if he can get like, pound coins to go and buy like, a Freddo or something. And, that's how poor he was. But like you're saying, he had to dig deep and ended up building a corporation, which people would be envious of.
100%. Bezos, Musk, probably a lot of sports stars. Ronaldo. Again, there was a great interview with him, Piers Morgan. He was talking about how many cars his dad had, and he was like, he didn't have one. Couldn't get one. Couldn't afford a single car. And he was like, well, how many have you got? He was like, 20. And they're probably each worth like between $500,000 and $1 million.
Yeah,
he's got 10 to 15, 20 million worth of cars.
Yeah, even when Joe Rogan talked to people and he's gone, or when he talks about, say, like Conor McGregor, and he's already got to the top of of the tree now, and he's got his boats and he's got his this, and he doesn't need to work anywhere near as hard. So it's like to get back in the gym and work as hard as you had to do at the start now, knowing that you've already made it, is way harder, because you've got it. You can just go, I'll tell you what, I'll leave it today. I'll just sit on my Lambo boat and just call it a day. I'll just have a pina colada or something. Because again, they can, because they've made it. Whereas, until the point that you've made it, you need to just rely on yourself to push it forward.
That's why I was always, and everybody always gives him criticism, but Floyd Mayweather, another one, didn't have the best upbringing. But he, even after he made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, in fact, he was the first boxer ever to, I think, generate $1 billion in revenue. I think maybe more. I think more than that. But I think he pocketed $1 billion. Either way, it was there or thereabout. And he was still pushing, not drinking, not partying, still training like an absolute Spartan up until his pretty much final fight with Conor McGregor, where he only just messed about because it was obviously going to happen.
There's about 150 million in it for him then.
It was more than that. But yeah, it was one of those things where you would have wiped the floor with him. He's just obviously been boxing his whole life, but that's where it comes from, that discipline and that fear and that pain. And you can remember, you can go to that place and you can use it. Whereas us, I mean, what pain are we drawing on? We had a mean babysitter at one point.
Yeah, I got, when we used to play conkers, that really hit me in the head hard. Once. That was bad.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But then you can either be an entitled prick or you can actually recognize that you've been into a position of privilege, not look down on anyone, actually try and find a way into sort of learning, understanding, spending time with a variety of all sorts of different people. And I never judge anyone. I always make my own judgments of people after I've met them. I don't care what car you drive. I don't care where you are, where you're from, where you were born, what you've got in the bank. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. I really, really do not care. But I care about your character. I think if you're born into a poor area or a less fortunate area and you're a lazy bastard and you claim benefits through a flaw in the system and you cheat the system, I think you're a prick. I also think if you are born into a rich family, and I know plenty of people that are like this, that leverage their parents, sit and wait for their parents to pass away to inherit wealth and do naffle with your time, achieve nothing in your own life and basically sponge off your parents, I also think you're a prick. So it applies across the board.
Yeah, do you know what it is? It's the difference. The difference is the discipline. And we've had, 2 US presidents very recently where you've got Joe Biden and his kids. And then you got Donald Trump and his kids. And no matter what you say about the two of them, but you got Donald Trump's kids that are like extremely competent, set up companies, running like his business empire while he's been president. You know, his daughters, his sons, all of them. I mean, I don't know if you've probably seen them being interviewed. I know I have. And they're like extremely competent. And then you got Sleepy Joe's. And it's like he's addicted to crack on like a podcast going, yeah, you know, the thing about crack cocaine, like, you know, oh, it's really good, and like, oh, it's so addicting. And it's like, what, is this an advert for crack or something? What's wrong with you, mate? And you just think the difference is just discipline, in that the one has disciplined the kids to almost create the hard times, or at least to think it's hard times, as opposed to just being privileged and just, like I say, taking them for a ride. I mean, even with Andrew Tate, again, I saw a video yesterday, and I'm assuming it's his kid. I wouldn't actually know. And like, he's going like left, like 1, 2, and he's like punching. He's like, and he does it wrong, and like he says 2, and he punches with his like 1, and he's like, no, do it again. And he goes, "Would you call me sir?" And he goes, "Yes, sir." And he's like teaching his kid to be a Spartan, and he's disciplining him to be able to get out in the world and conquer it, I suppose.
Like you said, I think, yes, discipline is a massive part of it, but sometimes discipline is forced upon you because of your surroundings. And you know what? I think the one thing that I will say, because I'm trying to paint how great it is being less fortunate, but I think what I'm trying to point out is that there are benefits to it. There's also some huge cons to it as well, because obviously, yes, the opportunities available to those less fortunate is definitely diminished. It's definitely harder. It's definitely tougher to get yourself out of those areas. It's definitely easier to get yourself caught up in crime. It's definitely easier to have prejudgment cast upon you from other people. Of course it is. And then you've also got to learn things for yourself that if you ever do make it out, or if you try to, or if you even want to, there's so much to learn and difference. So there's such a ladder to climb. It was a great video. Again, I don't want to keep referencing other people's videos and stuff, but there was like a football coach who basically said, everybody started at the same point on the field, and they were running sprints, and everybody started at the same point behind the white line. He said, take a big step forward. If both of your parents are still together, then, 80% still step forward. Take a big step forward if you've never been in debt as a family. Take a big step forward if you've lived in a house your whole life. Take a big step forward if you've never had to worry about paying for a meal. Take a big step forward, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually you've now got this diversity between where everybody is standing. He says, right, stop, take a look around and see where you're at. And then he said, just because some of the people hadn't even stepped forward one step. And what he's basically saying, it's a metaphor for you have got it tough. You have got a longer, harder, tougher race to run by being at the back of the line compared to silk pajamas at the front who's not had to do anything.
Fluffy earmuffs.
Exactly. And he's just got an easy ride. But the reality is he's still got to run his race. And if because of his silk pajamas, they act as shackles and he can't even take a step forward because he's that fucking lazy. And somebody at the back has got that grit and determination to go, do you know what? Even though I'm at the back of this line, I'm going to push forward. I'm going to beat that dickhead up there and I will outperform him. And then you become your own little hero story for yourself. And I think if you are, as a metaphor, the person at the back of the line, take that chip off your shoulder, because unfortunately life is cruel and no one is going to come and save you, and no one's going to come and bail you out. Regardless of where you've started on that line, you've got to sort it for yourself and really create your own path in life. But don't be immediately disheartened just because you're starting at the back, because you can use it as fuel. And then also, flip side to that, if you are born into your silk pajamas, don't expect for it to last forever, because a fool and his money are soon parted. And if you fuck up, you're in for a rude awakening, because you won't be able to make it back, because you're going to be too soft to be able to deal with it.
Yeah, take off them silk pajamas and pick up the dumbbells. Get in the gym, work a bit harder.
Facts. I think it's an important one. Right, bit of a monologue to end on, but just a different episode today. Like, I think everybody immediately wants to compare themselves to other people. And I think if anything that we've said today resonates, then either drop us a message, drop a comment below, and we'd like to hear back from you, because obviously it is a sensitive topic. We've tried to approach it carefully. But let us know what you think. Obviously, if you can, remember to like, leave a comment and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks very much for watching.